What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, coming to you from summer in Texas. It's not even May yet, and we're still in like 90 degrees here. Sucks. This is part 3 of my reviewing and ranking Rush's studio albums. This is the 90s and on, and beyond, and to eternity. The last 6 albums that they made. We're going to tackle those here. Then I have one more video planned in which I'm going to review Feedback, the Covers album. Not a fan of covers albums, but I'm going to give this one a shot. And then I will drop the complete rankings of their entire studio discography in that next video. But yeah, how'd we get to Rush from Frank? It was hard, but watch the previous videos. I do all that there. Let's quickly get on with these 6 albums, right? Yeah, that's all I got to say. I'll drop the list at the end also. But yeah, here we go. The 90s and beyond for Rush. Oh, those of you who know the discography well, and I think there's a really interesting, very interesting case for Rush's career, for Rush's trajectory, for what Rush possibly could be today if things had been different in the world, based on the way these albums drop. And I might have given that away if you know the catalog, but it's interesting the way this worked out. But yeah, on to number 6. Number 6 is Roll the Bones. Their 14th came out in 1991. That's about all I have to say about this. It's a number of songs that have really good intros where you're like, oh, all right, this is going to be something cool. And then we drop into a verse that maybe it's just like, And then maybe that music from the intro returns at some point, like maybe between verses or in the middle section. You're like, all right, this is pretty good. And then you're going back like, It's a lot of just on this. There's a couple songs that I think have some promising Grace Under Pressure energy. I'm a big Grace Under Pressure fan. I don't know, that sort of the Lifeson sort of guitar energy of Grace Under Pressure, kind of Grace's Face Up. I hear a little bit of that in there. And Heresy, I think those are the 2 that have the, no, Heresy sounds like early U2, getting some Edge vibes in there, in a good way. What is the other Grace Under Pressure? Oh, Neurotica has some Grace Under Pressure vibes, but just as a song. But really, the only thing any of us ever should talk about is the fact that there's a rap on this album in the title track. Yeah, somebody attempts to rap. I don't know who it is that attempts to rap. Is it Getty that attempts to rap? Like, I don't see any additional credits. Is it Getty that's rapping? There's a rap. Like, okay, kudos. You're trying to stay current, but maybe know your lane and stay in your lane. Yeah, Getty did it, right? He did the rap. Oh, no, yeah, it was Getty's Lee's voice. Interesting, just reading about that. I should have looked that up before. But yeah, that's okay, because I really don't have anything to say about this. It's The opening is not bad, Dreamline, but it's still just your typical pop rock number. Bravado, Roll Your Bones as a rap. Face Up, Where's My Thing? Kind of a different vibe, little synth pop, new wavy. I think maybe it's the most interesting thing on here. Part 4 of the Gangster of Boats trilogy. It is an instrumental, so props for anything that's an instrumental. Big Wheel, Heresy's got that early U2 vibe. Ghost of a Chance, another one where the opening is absolutely fantastic, and there's moments where that opening repeat, but ultimately it's like, A Neurotica sounds like Grace Under Pressure at times, little vibe, And then You Bet Your Life is just kind of rock with some kind of cheesy choral sing-along type background vocal type things, but just That's my number 6, Roll Your Bones, Number 5 is Counterparts, their 15th. The last one was their 14th. Came out in 1993. I think this is much better than Roll Your Bones. I actually think there's a lot of great music on here. But as with Roll Your Bones, there's a number of instances in which it's just like, great start. We drop into the verses and it's just kind of blah. It's kind of memorable. It's like, let's just do a bunch of instrumentals. Then we have usually that opening section usually returns at some point, maybe a bridge or between the verses or during the solos, and that's great again. Then we go back into the blah. So it's inconsistent, though I think there are some pretty strong songs on here. There's another instrumental, Leave That Thing Alone, which again, maybe the highlight of the album, probably the best thing on this album. Maybe Getty was, I don't know, it just seems like maybe, I guess Getty probably writes the vocal melodies, right? Maybe he was just running out of ideas, but anytime, the instrumentation is always fantastic. Like this band is still Rush. They're still the same guys playing the instruments. It's just the songwriting, I thought, it's just a little more hit and miss. This is a little more hit than Roll Your Bones, which is like, Animate, pretty awesome, solid, upbeat opener. Stick It Out, I think, is actually maybe even better, maybe the second best thing on here. Really heavy opening riff. The middle sort of, the meat of the song reminds me a little bit of Shudder to Think, like maybe 5,000 BC-ish, 5,000 BC, 500,000 BC. Maybe even that, or maybe a little before that. Maybe not that late in their career. But there's some Shudder to Think energy there, I think is good. And then we get a nice riff, and then we go to like a typical Rush chorus. But Stick It Out, I think, is a pretty interesting track. Cut to the Chase. Has some nice riffs and licks throughout it. I think Lifeson is pretty good. And even when the songs kind of drop off into like forgettable melodies and stuff, I think Lifeson's usually doing some stuff that's pretty interesting. But Cut to the Chase is ultimately kind of Nobody's Hero has like an acoustic vibe until we get like a louder, you know, more, become more electric. We get like a song that's a little more dynamic. Between Sun and Moon, some really nice guitar part in the middle. Again, Lifeson is coming up. Alien Shore, really nice rock, some nice grooves. But again, vocals, the singing, the lyrics, not really things you're like humming in your head afterwards. The Speed of Love, any song called The Speed of Love should either be really slow to make a point or really fast to make a point. Not sort of in the middle, just doing a thing. That's what this song is. It's in this. I don't know what The Speed of Love is. Is it just like a casual stroll on a Sunday? I don't know. Don't call it that. That disappoints me. Double Agent, really like this song. Whole bunch of series of awesome riffs throughout this. Again, Lifeson, the rhythm section, what they're doing. There's some great energy here. Then there's a little like spoken word section in here. Somebody's doing some talking, and I'm like, nah, we don't need that. But it's a pretty interesting song. One choice, one fatal flaw, but other than that, some kind of interesting stuff on Double Agent. Leave That Thing Alone is an awesome instrumental. Cold Fire, a really nice opening, really awesome attack in the beginning, but then we get to the verse, and again, I'm just like, okay, the promise, what you've promised me in the first 20 to 30 seconds, you're not delivering into the verse. Feels like two completely different things, just like, hey, we need an opening to put in front of this. And yeah, it bears a relation that's in the same key, and eventually they'll return to it, but they don't feel connected. And then Everyday, the closing, Everyday Glory, is just kind of straightforward, like Rush rock pop. Has some great moments, great potential, big improvement over Roll the Bones, but it's still my number 5 from the 90s on. Counterparts. Number 4 is Test for Echo, their 16th album. The one before this was 15, and the one before that was 14. You picking up when I'm laying down here? This came out in 1996. Prog is back. It's prog light, and it's not fully committed to prog, but there's some prog on this album. And Lifeson, again, Lifeson is back, people. Like, I know some people don't like that 80s stuff because we feel Lifeson checked out a little too much. Lifeson's back. I like this album. Again, I think this is even more improvement over Counterparts. I think the opening track, Test for Echo, might be the best opening track since Force 10. It does have a nice sort of, the verses, there's a little dip in the verse where it's not as engaging as the rest of it, but it's kind of a messy, all over the place, but really effective opening track that it doesn't seem to fit in a cookie cutter intro, verse, chorus, middle section. Doesn't seem to fit into any sort of template, though it's there, I'm sure. But there's like a slow, dramatic sort of build in the intro. Then we drop into a nice groove. We got the verses. We're kind of all over the place for the rest of the song, like nearly 6 minutes long. Really good opening track. Driven, awesome opening part. We get a little acoustic part. The number of songs in here where Lifeson's dropping some acoustic, and it actually sounds really good. And without, it feels organic to what the song needs and not just like tacked on or randomly inserted. Like, I think the organic nature of the way their songs develop, now that they're getting more complicated and more proggy, feels more natural as opposed to the verse chorus thing they were kind of stuck in for a while. And so even when the songs don't work, they're kind of a little more exciting because there's an unpredictable nature about them. Driven has this really nice Snaky Lifeson riff, Half the World's Next, interesting use of the acoustics, some really good bass playing, but that's always the case, but one of those in which the bass stands out. The Color of Right, probably one of those that has a great intro, kind of dips into blah. Time and Motion, best thing on the album so far to this point. Really nice kind of proggy opening riff, kind of really nice keyboard sections. There's different sections to the song. By far the most consistent from start to finish, where I think every different part engages and makes sense. We get Totem, probably the most upbeat, poppiest thing on here. Dog Ears, ignore the lyrics because the lyrics aren't the best thing in the world, but this has, I'm not going to say it's thrash because it's not thrash, but there's a really awesome rock groove to this song. It's kind of hitting a little bit harder. Really, really good. And it just maintains the energy from start to finish. We don't get any of those dips. Kind of ignore the lyrics, but Dog Ears, just energy is back, man. Virtuality kind of reminds me of some order of like Living Color type rock, very riff oriented type, kind of rock. Really cool, just nice riff oriented rock, very 90s. Resist, kind of a ballady type thing. Limbo, yeah, we get another instrumental. It's fantastic. Awesome sort of just jammy number, has almost like you want to dance vibe. Like if they were to drop this live, you'd be like on your feet the entire time. Hopefully you're on your feet the entire time anyways. Really frantic, some super funky bass. Limbo, yeah, awesome. And then we close out with Carve Away the Stone, which has this 3-chord like that motif that kind of sets it up. That reminds me, I had not thought of this album in probably 20 years. Until I recently listened to this. I was like, oh my God, that sounds like Come In and Explain off Tommy Shaw's debut solo album. Listen to Carve Away the Stone and then go listen to Tommy Shaw's Come In and Explain off his debut Girls with Guns. It's a decent closer, but that 3-chord motif that plays reminds me a lot of that song. I think it's 3 chords. Maybe it's different. I don't know, but it reminds me of that song. But yeah, much better album than the first two. Some really great stuff. And prog, there's some prog is back. Let's see what the future holds. Number 3 is Vapor Trails. Their 17th came out in 2002. The last one was the 16th. One before that was the 15th. One before that was the 14th, if you're figuring this out. Yeah, and apparently this came after quite a sort of break in a 5-year break because of tragedies in Peart's life. And they came back ready to rock. Like, this is just Rush rock and roll for it's like over an hour, right? They came back within almost 70 minutes. If I have a complaint, could be shorter. Trim it to 45, cut some of the fat. You got almost a perfect rock album. I did write in my notes recently listening to this, because this is one I haven't revisited a lot, so I was really surprised at how hard rocking this was. Right from the beginning, One Little Victory, awesome opener, very aggressive, just it's an athletic rocker, and kind of the momentum doesn't let up from there. But I did write that a couple of the songs I'm picking up on some like late to mid-career, I'm not a big fan of this band, but I'm going to put this down anyways, Red Hot Chili Pepper rock vibe, like when they're going for more of a rock thing. You still have that little element of funk that's in there because of their roots. Though I know that people always think they're a funk band, but not really. We won't discuss them. But there's a little Red Hot Chili Peppers vibe seeping in here. And I think that may be intentional. The band was huge at the time. Yeah, that's how much this is rocking, and that's how funky it is at times, and just how like aggressive the entire thing is. And it's a joyride, man. It is exhilarating. I mean, in real time to get to this point. They've been gone for 5 years. They dropped this album, and this is what they're bringing. I think it's fantastic. One Little Victory, great opening. Ceiling Unlimited, high energy just continues. Bass is absolutely ridiculous. Lifeson's riffs are rock and roll all over the place. Ghost Rider, a little more low key, but it's still got a really nice bubbling rock energy there. Awesome lifes and licks throughout this entire thing. Peaceable Kingdom, kind of a nice steady swagger to it. Again, riffs galore, licks galore, lifes and galore. The Stars Look Down, straight up high energy rocker. How It Is, high energy rocker, kind of taut, kind of tight. Vapor Trail, starts a little low key, but then the energy builds nicely. Secret Touch also has a nice low key interest, kind of a low key start, but then you get this really funky, frantic, kind of hectic, sort of funk rock vibe that drops in, gets chaotic. The middle is like this like nice stretched instrumental that's almost kind of crazy. Yeah, band feels like they're having fun on this one. Earthshine, more rock. Sweet Miracle, great groove. Again, one of the best rhythm sections in rock, if not the. Nocturne, really nice sort of drum motif that kind of guides this one. That's really good. Peart putting his stamp on this one. We get Freeze, Part 4 of Fear, which has a really nice funky groove and a really just cool energy about it. It's worthy of the Fear quadrology. What is it? I don't know what that is. It's not a trilogy. Quadrology? What is that? I know there's a name for it. And then Out of the Cradle, the closer, kind of low-key, slinky type energy that builds nicely. Yeah, just they're coming, man. They're back. This band is ready. Yeah, they've entered the new millennium. What, 2002 when this came out? Yeah, they hit it with the pedal to the metal, people. My number 3, Vapor Trails. Number 2 from the 90s on is Snakes and Arrows. Their 18th came out in 2007. The last one was the 17th, and before that, 16th. See what's happening here? See, as they get older, what's happening to the albums? Yeah, you know by now because there's only one left. Each album got increasingly better until they retired. Number 1 is their last album, giving that away if you haven't figured it out. Snakes and Arrows. Yeah, the beginning of the opening track, right off the bat, we got Far Cry. It is old school prog. It is exactly what you want from Rush. The band is back. They worked out their prog kinks 2 albums ago. They remembered how to rock in Vapor Trails. Now they're putting it all together, and it's just, yeah. It is the first song in a long time where you start off with like this energy and this idea, and then when you get to the verse, you're like, whoa, we're still moving forward. We're still like engaged in creating something. We're not dropping back into this comfortable place because, we already did the hard work. So many songs on here. It's old school Rush. You don't get this intro and then we kind of go back down like we did. It's almost exhilarating to hear them back so well. In fact, one of the songs, they actually start off like really kind of chill. And then when you actually get into the verses and the chorus, it gets heavier, which has not happened since I don't know when. I wrote down what song that was, but now, Working Them Angels. Yeah, you get this nice rock pop standard, some cool grooves, and then the song actually gets heavier after the intro drops. It's amazing. Far Cry, awesome opener. Armor and Sword, the second song, some great bass playing. Got some more acoustic guitar, a lot of acoustic guitar in this album, and every time it pops up, sounds like it's the 70s. It's mic'd perfectly, whatever guitar he's using, his strings, everything. It sounds old school Rush without sounding like an old school Rush song. Sounds like new Rush playing like they used to. Fantastic. We got The Larger Bowl, sort of mid-tempo, pretty much straightforward song, pretty much as straightforward as you can get. You get Spindrift, which starts off low-key and just builds into like this heavy riff. Really good energy on this. We have 3 instrumentals. The Main Monkey Business, 6 minutes, just amazing grooves, amazing drum ideas, amazing solo, probably the 6th fastest instrumental 6 minutes I've heard in a long time. I'm always thinking like, did I fall asleep during the middle part? Because that went by way too quick. There's another instrumental called Hope, which is like an acoustic instrumental, 2 songs down. And then towards the end, you get a 2+ minute Malignant Narcissism. This really awesome bass-driven instrumental that musically sounds like the title. It sounds like the musical version of what Malignant Narcissism actually is. Yeah, it's fantastic. What else we got? The Way the Wind Blows, some good solid Rock Attack energy. Bravest Face, you got heavy into acoustic, kind of a mid-tempo thing. Good News First, kind of slows down for the verse, but you get kind of a nice cool groove that's almost kind of a little bit slinkier, and it's not as like taking the wind out of the sails as some of the other things are. And then Hold On, We Hold On is some nice mid-tempo rock. Yeah, it's just, it's eclectic in that the sense that like the instrumentals are definitely adding a different sort of flavor. You got some heavy attacks. You got some acoustic that sounds like we want it to sound. It's a little all over the map stylistically, but it sounds like Rush every time. We got some prog, we got some rock, we got some acoustic, we got some instrumentals. We got everything you want from Rush. And this is in what, 2007? So they're bringing it. And they still got one more album in their career. At least one official studio that's not a cover thing. And it's next on this list because they went out on top, people. Let's get on to number one. And my number one from the 90s and on is their 19th and final album, the last one they did, 2012's Clockwork Angels. Normally, when I look at this and say it's like 68, 67 minutes long, I'd say it could use some trimming. I'm not going to say that this time. One, because it is their last one. Two, because it is great. And three, because I'm not sure I would trim anything. Actually, I think I do know what I would trim, but I think it works within the context of the album because the songs I would trim are just surrounded by fantastic things anyways. From the beginning, from the opening Caravan, this feels like a prog rock band. Whatever they did in the 80s, the 90s, what they rediscovered in the 2000s, this feels like a prog rock album. Yes, it's a modern prog rock album by a band that's been started in, decades ago, but it feels prog rock. A little bit of swag, a little bit of confidence. The band sounds like they're having the time of their life. All of these songs, the shortest song is 1:28, and it's kind of a reprise of the second song, which is 5+ minutes. These are long songs. Halo Effect, 3 minutes long, but it's an acoustic little thing, 6 songs in that you kind of need at that point because prior to that, they're just hitting you with one relentless prog rock attack. Lifes and solos are fantastic. The bass work is fantastic. The drumming is fantastic. Apparently, it is a concept album. There is a concept. You don't need to know the concept to enjoy this album because I don't know the concept and I love this album. So yeah, Caravan. Proggy opener, that not instrumental, that immediately you're like, yeah, this band is back. BU2B, Brought Up to Believe, the one that has the reprise later on, really nice hard rock attack. Clockwork Angels, 7.5 minutes. It feels like it could be an album in itself. Like, feels like whatever this story is, the song Clockwork Angels feels like a healthy, awesome prog epic. It's a journey. It's like just an awesome, awesome song. The Anarchist, awesome drum bass groove, like Lee and Peart just locking up, great energy, great instrumental development throughout the course of the song, all before the lyrics even drop. Like, that's the thing. This album, and to some extent Snakes and Arrows, I think what works about the songs is all of them seem to have character development before we get to the verses. Like, we're not just like going, oh, here they are, ba, 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 into the verse. It's like, hey, we're going to introduce you with some drums and bass, then the guitar will come in, then we'll do a little bit different. It's like old school Rush. We're setting up all these ideas and all these flavors before we get to the lyrics. And then we're going to revisit all those flavors throughout the song, sometimes for short periods, sometimes for long periods. And it feels so much more complete and organic, and the songs all feel like you have to start at point A to get to point B. You can't just jump in a verse chorus and just be caught up. The entire song feels like an essential part of the musical journey. Fantastic. Carnies, nice and heavy, as any song named Carnies must be. Halo Effect calms us down. 7 Cities, really nice kind of funky bass energy to open us up. What else do we get? Then we get into the song. We get some slightly chaotic vibes, really great groove in there. We get the Wreckers. Kind of sounds like power pop at times. I'm hearing a little like, maybe not Replacements, but something that Big Star could have done if they were a harder rocking band. It's just kind of nice. There's some neat little vibe to this one. Reminds me of an early 80s type song to the melody of this song. That's the Wreckers. And then, hands down, what I think is the highlight of this album, just the 7+ minute Headlong Flight, which is just like, I think everything else on this album is great. Like, you get to Headlong Flight, and I'm not expecting you to drop the best track on the album. Like, Caravan, Clockwork Angels, The Anarchist, like, we're bringing some good stuff here. Then they drop Headlong Flight, which is just like, get some great bass intro. You get this almost Marshall-esque type drum rhythm coming in, awesome grooves, awesome riffs, almost feels purely heavy metal at times. We go from groove to groove to groove to groove. There's really dynamic in what's happening. It feels almost exhilarating, roller coaster, like Headlong Flight, the title right there. Again, it matches the music. Like, they do a really good job of naming their songs. This feels like a headlong flight on like a roller coaster, but you changing tracks and doing different things. It is just absolute shredding solo. Yeah, Headlong Flight, people. And it comes, what, like 50 minutes into the album? So like, you're already been bombarded, you know, for almost an hour. And this is still able to engage and grab and go, no, wait. The best thing's still here. After that, we get that brief little return to BUTB, Brought Up to Believe, right? Then we get Wish Them Well, and The Garden to close out. Wish Them Well, kind of okay, great guitar solo. And The Garden has kind of a nice acoustic vibe, kind of a little bit softer, kind of a nice slow build. You got one of those closing solos, kind of a proggy solo that sounds like, I'm wrapping everything up on the album and we're resolving all of our emotions type thing. Yeah, it just feels like Rush. It just feels like Rush. The whole album just feels like Rush. It's exhilarating. It's awesome. It's exciting. Like 17 albums in, 19 albums in, 2012, they've gone through personal trauma. They're into the road. Just, they brought it. They delivered. And so, yeah, that's my number one, Clockwork Angels. So, yeah, that's what they look like. If you didn't get all those really subtle hints I was putting down, it's 6 to 1 is in reverse chronological order. 6 being the earliest. And then as they release albums, they get better. They got better as they got older. And they ended their career with a fantastic album. And I have not looked at other artists, but off the top of my head, I don't think I could think of an artist. Like, Dylan is close, but even Dylan had some dips in that latter run, and he was, you know, his run was longer and all that. Well, maybe not that much longer. But I mean, Dylan is close, but is there another artist where like their last 6 albums, probably their last 7, maybe we'll see how that one falls. That's a close one. They got progressively better and better. I mean, crazy. I don't know. I'm impressed. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got. Let me know what you think of these albums, why I should reconsider. You know, I'm not going to tell you how to leave comments. You have your own thoughts. Subscribe, like, share, comment. If you don't know Clockwork Angels or Snakes and Ladders, Shoots and Arrows, Snakes and Arrows. We played Shoots and Ladders the other day, last week in class. One kid always cries when they get that last slide at the end. Yeah, I feel bad. Okay, I got stories about that, but never mind. Check out those last 2 because like they returned to form. A new form. They evolved into this new form, but the level of excitement returned. Yeah. All right, that's all I got. I'll drop another video talking about feedback, and then I'll drop the complete rankings of all their albums at that point. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Do those things and go listen to Rush. Peace. Talk to you later.